One more kiss, dear, one more sigh, only this, dear, is goodbye, for our love is
Okay, in order to understand how photography works, the first thing we need to do is to look at the word itself. So we have photography, right? Now the first part of the word derives from light, right? And the second part of the word derives from painting or drawing. So if you look at the whole word itself, photography basically means to paint or draw with light. Now, what do I mean when I say painting with light? This is the beauty of shooting with film. You can actually see how the camera works, or photography works for that matter. So, light comes in through the lens, into the camera's body, and to the back of it, where the film lives. So, when you snap a picture, all you're actually doing is allowing the light to come all the way through to reach the film itself. Like this. Now that we know how taking a picture works, it is important to understand how we as photographers can manipulate the light in order to get the results that we want. The three basic points to manipulate light are: number one, film speed. Film speed refers to just how sensitive the film is to light. The higher the number, the more sensitive it is. In this type of cameras we have this dial which we can turn in order to point or mark the particular film speed of any given roll that we are working with. Number two, shutter speed. Now, shutter speed represents how long are we actually going to be exposing the film to the light whenever we press the shutter. So in this camera we have all the way from B, which is bulb, to 1/1000th of a second, right? Now, if we go all the way to 1, that would be 1 second. Whereas B represents bulb, which is, like I said, which is as long as you press it, you are exposing. And number three, aperture. Right, so lastly we have aperture. Aperture represents basically just how big of a hole we have to let the light come through. In the lens we have these measurements which are called f-stops, which represents how big this hole is. In this particular lens we have 1.4 being the largest aperture and 16 being the smaller one. Okay, so to sum up, this is what I believe to be the most basic points in photography. Of course, all that I just explained is probably more oriented to film photography than it is to digital. It does apply as well. And finding a balance between these three basic points is what would ideally lead to a properly exposed picture. There are more things to be said about how aperture and shutter speed could affect the outcome of a picture, but that requires a more in-depth explanation, which I'm not going to cover in this video. I do intend of making a part 2, maybe, eventually, but until then, I hope you find this useful and easy to understand.